Everyone, this is Robert Jacobson here. It is today is March 24th, 2023, and I'm here with my friend Dr. Joseph Dituri, and I believe this is his day 24 of living underwater as part of a 100-day record mission. Do I have that correct, Joe?
That is absolutely correct. 24 days into it.
24 days into it. So for those who don't know Dr. Dituri, he's an associate professor at the University of South Florida, which is my mother's an alumnus from that school. That's over in Tampa, but they've got many branches around kind of Central Florida. He's an explorer, retired naval officer, clinical researcher, author, speaker, business owner, and father of daughters, and just a great individual who I got to know at a really profound time in my life back in June 2018. And it's really great to be speaking to you today, Joe. So tell us where you're at physically.
It's terrific. Right now I'm in the Jules undersea habitat, and we're doing science and hanging out by the window where all the scuba divers go by, and I get to give high fives to people as they fly by. So yeah, it's in Key Largo, Florida, and you two can come stay here, but that's not part of this mission. But we're trying to figure out what happens to a human when they stay underwater in an isolated, confined, extreme environment for a long period of time.
And how is this environment in terms of the pressure where you're living in the Jules Undersea Lodge? How is it different than, say, at sea level? Can you share?
Yeah, so you're at 14.7 pounds per square inch, and I'm over 25 pounds per square inch. So I have more pressure on me, literally and physically, and even figuratively, unfortunately. But so I'm basically under that sea pressure. It's an open bell environment, so it is 100% humid. So it doesn't matter how much I try and contain my lot, I got nothing. Like there's no cure, right? It's frizz central.
So tell us a little bit about like how you enter ingress and egress into this facility. Because I had dinner with some friends last night, my wife and a friend. And they were very curious about like how do you get in and out of the lodge, and can you have visitors and things like that?
Absolutely. Part of it is we're going to have visitors. Let me take you on a tour. You want to see my house?
Let's see the house. Let's just do the grand tour right now. Okay.
So first of all, I have my scientific stuff: EEGs, EKGs, pulmonary function tests. It's all stacked in one corner because I live in a tiny house. So there's my microscope. We're finding new stuff down here. And overall, I have a very tiny little refrigerator. There's my freezer. It's about what you would expect to find in a hotel. Okay. And then science doesn't happen without coffee. So we have coffee, and then we have a microwave. And that's the only way we can cook down here is a microwave, because we're at an increased pressure, which means we're at an increased partial pressure of oxygen, which means that the ignition point is lower for everything. So we do not want to ignite anything that would be on that big long list of good and bad. It'd be very bad. So this space is about 15 feet long, give or take, of usable space. And you can see it's really not that wide. It seems like it's wide, but really it's trailer wide. It's smaller than a trailer that you would take. The entire sphere, or the entire cylinder, is 8 feet in diameter. So, but that's not all usable. So it's probably about 5 feet of usable space.
And just to give you an idea, Joe, you're a tall guy. I mean, you're a big guy.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
right. So there you go. The hatch.
And Joe, what are your like
escape hatch?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a lot of this. It's a lot of ducking. So, and a lot of branding on the head. I get hit in the head a lot. So then you have to go through these little holes in the bottom, and you come into this next place. So this is, every good hotel has a pool, and that's the pool. But this is the way we get in and out. So when you go down, you dive in that water, you are now in 22 feet of water. You go deeper, and then you go out, and then you can go and scuba dive into the lagoon. So that is our mission logo and so forth. And then right here, everybody always asks, so I figure I'll tell you right away, what goes in must come out. So you got to have a commode. But it's just like a commode on a, like a commode that's on a normal a trailer type thing. It has to be macerated. It's in a storage tank. You have to pressurize and send it up to the surface. I have a small shower that you have to leave to change your mind. It's so small. And then this is the bunk. So you have a bunk on the bottom, and that is a twin size bed. That's the big bed, is the twin. Up on top is something that is about a foot less wide than a bunk, than a twin size bunk. And then that's the visiting scientist cabin over there. And that is it. That is the entirety of my humble abode. So
impressive. Thanks for giving us the walkthrough. So as you're kind of walking back, maybe you could tell us, how did you get interested personally in the oceans? And did you know that as an adult, you would be, that you would become I'll say an ocean science and physiology professional? You've done work with the Navy with saturated diving, your work with teaching and research. Tell us about your origin story.
So the story of Joe, I think I was 10 years old or 9 years old. My father had a boat that was too big to pull out of the water. And, we're talking the 70s, the late 70s, right? And I'm there trying to hold my breath to go underwater to try and do something underneath the boat. He's like, go under there and hold your breath and take this thing off. And I'm like, okay. So, I'm a 10-year-old kid. I know, you're under the boat. I can't hold my breath long enough. I come up and he goes, wait a minute. All right, here, just use this thing. Now he comes out with my Uncle John, who was 15. He was 20 years older than my dad. So my Uncle John had dive gear from way back when, like when Christ was a corporal, right? We're talking a long time ago, right? It's a double hose regulator and a backpack with these little hooks. No BC, just straps this thing on me. And then as I'm going to go underwater, he goes, wait, don't hold your breath. So that was the entirety of my scuba diving lesson. That was it. Don't hold your breath. And I'm like, okay. So I go underwater and I'm sitting there in the mud in a canal in New York underneath my dad's boat, taking off the zinc tab. And I'm like, this is so cool. I love it. I'm going to do this for a living. And then I cut school to go diving in the canals. And then I, joined the Navy, and then I realized that there were fish in other places, and it's pretty, and you have to just dive in the canal to go see, junk in the canal. But, that was back in the 70s where it was cool to dive in canal. It's not cool to do that anymore.
Got it. What has been some of the can you tell us about a really memorable undersea adventure that you've had, in terms of whether it's something experience oceanic life or something that just really profoundly just deepened your experience in connection with the oceans, or any water? It doesn't have to be salty. It could be lake or,
Yeah, I got the very fortunate opportunity to re-enlist a person on the deck of the battleship, the Arizona, the Memorial, the Arizona. And from time to time, when you re-enlist a person, that person can ask where to be re-enlisted. So they can say on the deck of the battleship, the Arizona. It's doable if you're dive qualified, Navy dive qualified, you have to run the thing. So I did that dive, and I thought I was like really pumped when I did that dive. And then I got in the water and I was like overcome with the souls that were on that boat. I mean, I was like, wow. It's a very solemn moment, like a very, okay, all right, yep, yeah, this is a big deal. So,
and so you did that just at the surface, or you were slightly above? Give us a little more specifics.
So the battleship Arizona sank in Pearl Harbor, and it sank with the crew on board, basically. So it sank in basically the upright position. So there's almost nothing hanging out of it right now. I think there may be some parts, like just a little skimmer of the top of the exhaust stack, something like that, is out of the water. But short of that, it's underwater. So we went down about 22 feet, about this depth underwater, and we kneeled on top of the turret, like the number one gun turret. And we kneeled on top of that and did the oath of enlistment. And then we just swam around it. You cannot go inside it because it's an official grave. It's a burial ground, right? It's a war memorial, if you will. but it was just such a solemn moment in my life, and that these several thousand people are trapped on that thing, and that they lost their lives in one fell swoop. And I thought, wow, this is going to be cool. And I was like, it was the furthest thing from cool. It was like awe-inspiring. So that was my one gig underwater. That was just interesting.
I remember visiting it and and noticing that there was still oil coming up, or the fuel coming from it. Yep. When it hits the surface, and going, decades later, there's still this reminder to the surface. It's almost like a memory of those lost, still saying, "Hey, we're here," Yep. And I emailed you something early. You may not have had a chance to see it, but you might have seen across decades ago. Outside of Los Angeles, they'd been taking these big canisters of leftover DDT, and they think that there's thousands of these canisters offshore around the Channel Island area that's at the bottom. And they've been doing studies, and the article that came out in the LA Times that I'd love for people to check out is that it looks like many of them are leaking. And they already know that this is how, DDT affected, I think it was a sea lion, some type of mammal population with a really aggressive cancer. And this is really bad stuff. And we're in a time where, we're living an amazing time where we're talking about exploring both the oceans and off planet. But we're doing really deleterious things to the oceans. We know that if the oceans die, we will die. And I want to reposition the thought that, although undersea mining might be interesting, and I think it's a bad idea, maybe we should be using these robotic systems to look at cleaning up these oceans, and removing these canisters if we can safely. And just wanted to gauge your reaction to some of this.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. The solution to pollution has never been dilution, right? That's not the way we do things, right? We knew that it was a carcinogen when we made it. And now all of a sudden we said, oh, I have a good idea. Let's just put it in the water, the ocean. Like, wait, it hurts people. So let's put it in the ocean, which produces between 50 and 70% of the oxygen that we get on. Let's put it in there. Wait, what? No, that seems silly. So yeah, I disagree. And, I've seen this over time, how, like, for instance, the Coast Guard, when they changed the batteries on the buoys, they were throwing the batteries in the water. So there's this whole effort to come clean it up. So it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. People are starting to see what was being done, but that's not it. It's the microplastics. It's the like we are really treating this place poorly, and I have a feeling that it's going to push back a little bit, that Mother Nature is going to push back on us in some way, shape, or form. And I just believe that personally, not with any intellectual knowledge, but I just feel that way, So.
And thank you. So going back to your 100-day mission, besides, studying how the effects are on you, can you talk about maybe what you're hoping to inspire regarding, the oceans and, people living on this planet and our children?
Yeah. So there are three goals, only one of which is the biomedical engineering side of the house: the blood, the urine, the saliva, all that stuff, all the EKGs and EEGs and all that testing that I do on a regular basis. That's great. That's my bailiwick. But the best thing about it, honest so far, has been the STEM outreach. So I'm outreaching to kids on a daily basis. I go to 2 or 3 engagements a day, usually about 2 full hours of kids. Hey, what are you doing down there? Where do you go to the bathroom? Hey, what kind of creatures have you seen? How does that, so we kind of sort of got this thing down, and then they come in, or some of them get to come in and they get to high five me right in the window. So wow. The best part about it is this little 13-year-old girl trying to hold her breath to get down 22 feet, trying to hold her breath, trying 15 times she gets to try and come down. Finally, she high fives me in the window, and I'm like, that made it all worthwhile. I'm done. If this all ends tomorrow, I'm perfectly fine, because we took that little girl and we pressed her, and she pushed herself to get to come down here and high five me. I'm like, we're good. So that kind of outreach, that kind of lighting kids up and getting these smiles on their face, Do you mind if I show you this real quick?
Sure, show us
Let me show
whatever
you.
you want. Yeah, we'd love to see. I think the inspiration and education is
So
extremely
this
important.
came out of a school that I just did, right?
Oh,
Lindenhurst Bulldogs. The kids sent me all these when I talked about Fred the lobster that I found down there. You know, they're like all these, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm just like, I'm amazed. I'm awestruck by these kids and how lit up they are. The teacher wrote me and she's like, okay, you started a fire in my classroom. I'm just telling you. Everybody in my classroom wants to be an underwater explorer right now. And I'm like, yes.
and
Hashtag winning.
yeah, and I want to tell people to follow you on social media on Dr. Deep Sea. And I
Yeah.
know this can't be this has I'm going to guess that this mission is taking a lot of resources. And I want to challenge businesses or schools or other organizations to maybe put some money towards this, and it's never too late. So reach out to the folks managing this project, and I would love to see you get some
Yeah.
sponsorship for this.
So currently, the Marine Lab, Marine Resources Developmental Foundation, a 501c3, is a partial sponsor of us. And they're the ones that send the kids down on a regular basis because all they do is take kids from landlocked places, bring them down here and have them experience the ocean and sea life and stuff like that. Touch, feel, put their hands on this science that we're doing. And the other thing is the International Board of Undersea Medicine, and that's my corporation. So basically, I sponsor my own science. Surprise, I'm a scientist. I pay for myself to do science. It is crazy. But if you want to give to a 501c3, Marine Resources Developmental Foundation, MRDF, look them up, mrdf.org, and they are great people. And they are absolutely willing to take your donation and put it towards great causes like educating our kids. Yeah. But then the other thing, the third thing that we're doing down here, which is the total surprise to everybody, not me, but like I have one or two friends in the diving and undersea world, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, doctors of ichthyology, doctors of shark research, doctors of benthic geology, doctors of marine science, MDs, PhDs from all over the place. They're all coming down here to visit, and we get to talk with them and talk about what's important to them. We're talking to Coral Restoration Foundation, those people that come down here and transplant coral from their growing stations out to the reef, and they glue the coral to the
Hey,
reef.
look, you got a visitor, Joe. Joe, you got a visitor.
Yeah, you see, that happens daily, right? It's like that stuff happens, right? I mean, it's a regular occurrence. I don't know if there's a whole class up there, but that happens,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, he was just snorkel, and he just did a little.
Snorkel down.
My wife's a free diver. I wish I could send her over to see you. And you got to
Listen,
and Joe, you're a free diving judge too, right?
yeah, yeah, I do free
There you
diving.
go. Wait, yeah, there you go.
Yep. Yeah, I love it.
Oh,
I
there's
love it.
another one else. Another guy.
Yeah.
I think you got a little a little train,
Yeah,
of
and
visitors.
maybe a couple of kids down there. I wonder if so. Sometimes these aren't kids; those are clearly a little more
I think
adult.
they're a little more
Tattoos.
adult.
So I
Yeah.
think they're older. But yeah, that's it's really neat, and I
There you
wonder.
go.
Yeah, that was definitely not a child.
Not a child, but um
So
but this is so wait, go back to the third one. So you're talking about bringing your professional colleagues and
professional colleagues that do research in this environment, like Sylvia Earle, will be down
oh,
here.
Sylvia Earle, amazing, and who a lot of folks don't know. She was born in Dunedin, Florida. She was born and
I
raised.
know. So she loves, like, I'm from Tampa, so I'm like, that's my girl right there. She's right in the home neck of the woods.
She's a rock. She's such a rock star. I mean,
Yeah.
and the scientists are the rock star. So, Joe, my wife had a question. Do you know anything? Are you noticing anything different in terms of your breathing, and are you recording your dreams or keeping track of how you're sleeping in dreams?
Yeah. So I keep track of things. Where's my journal? Yep. I keep track of everything that happens on this mission. Every single thing gets written down. Everything doesn't get wasted. So yeah, I'm keeping track of everything. I'm also doing sleep tracking with an Aura ring. And further, we're kind of working our way through this entire thing to collect all the data. We're not missing anything. So what have I noticed that's changed? I sleep more deeply and for longer deep sleep than I do when I'm on the surface. And that's just me, right? I don't know anybody else, but I know my data. So can I say unequivocally that that's the case? No, I can't. But I can say that that happens for me. The other thing that happens is I increase the amount that I urinate, frequency with which I urinate, and urgency of urination down here. So our hypothesis is that it's due to the increased static head pressure, right? I mean, there is an increase of pressure down here, and I have to urinate against that.
But have you tried at least one day without coffee, which is a diuretic?
Yep. So I did. As a matter of fact, the first 2 days were without coffee and had nothing to do with trying it. They had decaffeinated coffee, which was really bad, and I had no idea it was decaffeinated. But yeah. So, but it's not that. Like, I drink coffee every day, right? So I drink 2 cups of coffee every day, and that's why I'm the controlled experiment, because that's what I do on the surface and that's what I do underwater. So you would imagine that the urination would be the same, that the urine output would be the same. And we've done this anecdotally in about 3 or 4 people that have come down so far. They do their urine before, during the stay, and afterwards, and there's an increase and then a decrease back afterwards. So it's like, why? Why, if you're drinking the same amount of fluid, are you urinating more? It doesn't even make any sense. Mammalian reflex and the pressure immersion diuresis might say that you have a redistribution of fluid, and you might think that that's the case. But when I'm in the habitat, I'm actually under gravity, right? So I'm in gravity right now. Pressure immersion diuresis only happens when you're in the water. So I'm truly, while I'm under pressure, I'm not in the water the whole time. So, but maybe there's some sort of pressure immersion effect. We don't know, but this is just stuff that we're noting for the first time. But that's just the preliminary stuff. It's science, and we're not going to know the answer for a month after we're done.
And since we're on the topic of inner space, maybe we can also talk about outer space. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what the analog for whether it's R&D, living off planet, or whether it's on a station or on the moon or Mars or on a spacecraft. Where does your mind go? Where does some of the research go?
Right.
This.
So my master's, as you probably well know, is in astronautical engineering, right? So it's all about life support, and I teach part of the class that does bioastronautics. So I know a fair bit about space, and I started hypothesizing long ago that you're going to go to Mars. Our closest Hohmann window, our Hohmann transfer window, is 200 days to get to Mars. 200 days. So wait a minute. I'm going to stay down here for 100 days. What happens to people that are in an isolated, confined, extreme environment for 200 days? What happens to people in space? We know for sure it degrades, increases bone loss, or decreases the amount of musculature that's being used. So how do we thwart that? So we're down here doing an experiment in conjunction with the bands that are going to NASA. These are resistance bands. You can use these anywhere in the world, anywhere in the universe. They have the same property. Even in space, they'll have the same property, right? So this is kind of sort of the same thing that we do.
Essentially, as a little bit as instead of using weights.
Yeah. So instead of using weights, because you're in a zero gravity environment, there is no weight up there. You don't weigh anything. So you're in a constant state of free fall, if you will. So we use those resistance bands in conjunction with these pressure cuffs that reduce, they constrict, and they let up, and they constrict and they let up. They cycle. This brand is called Katsu, but you could, I guess, use any kind of a band. But the point being is that when you restrict the blood flow and increase the blood flow, restrict it and increase it, you can get much more of a workout with the band than you could by just using a band. And it increases things like brain-derived neurotropic factor, insulin growth factor, vascular endothelial growth factor. So you're basically boosting up your mitochondrial health at the same time as you're working out. So the supposition is I'm going to be bigger, better, faster when I get out of here because that's the test that we're doing. So we'll see,
Or
but we don't know just
do
yet.
you have any rest days when it comes to your physical training?
Yes. Yep. There are rest days built in. Like the whole thing is programmed. Everybody's like, what do you do when you're down there? I'm like, I get up in the morning at about 5:30, 6 o'clock every morning, and I go to bed at about 8 o'clock at night, and I'm exhausted because I have done 14 interviews, 3 of these, 6 of these. I worked out. I did all these pulmonary function tests and EEGs, EKGs, and yeah, oh my goodness. I have never been so busy as I have been when I'm down here. I'm like, I don't have time to. They're like, you want a TV in your room? I'm like, hell no, I don't want a TV in my room. I don't. A, I don't watch TV. B, I ain't got time to watch TV. I'm like trying to catch up on sleep and ay ay ay.
So, Joe, are you familiar with the author Frank White, who coined the term the overview effect, where astronauts have reported they come back, having a cognitive shift from seeing the Earth, from space? Are you a bit familiar with that?
I'm not. I wasn't aware of that. But
Okay. So this was done through a number of interviews. I think he interviewed like 40 to 50 people who had been to space. Many of them had this cognitive shift. They're looking at the Earth without borders, and usually they come back changed. And many times they want to do even more good for the Earth. Have you had any type of similar experience yet? Like as an inner space, you're sitting here, you have this portal to the water, and just whether it's kind of a philosophical question.
yeah, well, I'll tell you this. You truly don't know a place until you start living there. Like I've dove this place ah, several times, right? And I thought I knew it. Now that I live here, I see out there, I see that the white attracts the lobsters. The lobster that hangs out right there is Fred. I literally watched Fred molt. It's like you don't get to see this stuff unless you live here. So yeah, it's a perspective that I did not have before for sure. Like this closeness to the marine environment. I just spoke with Chile this morning, and they've taken to calling me Aquaman, and I'm like, I don't know about calling me Aquaman, but I understand what you're thinking. But like I'm truly living amongst these people. Like these are my people now. Not really, but tongue in cheek. But seriously, it's one of these like, wow, you are part of the environment. And the more you're out here and the more they see you, yeah, it's cool.
What has been one of the top challenges for you personally and professionally in living there and helping be the PI leading this mission?
Sure. The hardest part for me is always the sun. Like I am a sun chaser, a sun creature. Like not that I worship the sun or stay in it, but I watch the sunrise and I watch the sunset every day. It's just what I do, right? It drives me, it grounds me. I remember that I'm on a rock. I'm looking at that rock and I have another little rock circling up. It's like it's that profound wisdom that comes from looking at that big orange orb in the sky. And honestly, I miss the sun, and I did not think I would miss her as much as I do. That sun is really like part of my life. So that's really going to be the first thing that I do when I come out is go watch the sun. After that, just family separation is always hard. But I was in the military for 28 years, so that happens. And to think that a couple of month deployment, that's not such a big deal, right?
Yeah, yeah. At night, are you able to see from the depth are you able to see any of the night sky, the moon if it's out? And can you?
Zero.
No.
Zero of the night sky, zero. Moon, sun, nothing. I can't even see the sun. I can see that it's light up there, but that's about it.
Yeah. Okay. And have you had any calls from any family yet? Have you been able to check in with them, or are you just so busy you're just kind of doing the professional engagements at this point?
Professional engagements at this point, but that's about it. The kids haven't called just yet, but they're kids and they got their own life. They're in their 20s, so kids go be kids, and they're like, yeah, go dad, just yeah, go be you, do you,
So people love having advice. And I guess what advice are you going to give to any, whether aspiring researchers or explorers? I mean,
So I would like to confess something to your audience that so when I was in high school, I did not do well in high school. Okay. When I say didn't do well, I was in the lower one third of my class. I had a 910 on my SAT. Okay. 28 years later, I'm in the military for 28 years. I did great things. I became a commander. I retired from that career, started an entirely different career. Now I'm teaching biomedical engineering. I finally found my passion, what drives me, what motivates me. I don't care how much money I make now. I'm just in this doing it for the love of doing it. And now I have a PhD, right? It's like you're not dumb. You might think that the current school system that you're in is stumbling or tripping you up, but don't think that you're dumb because I did that for a lot of years. So don't do that. There's enough people out there that are judging you. Don't bother judging yourself. Just be you, chase your passion early and often, chase your passion. And no matter what anybody tells you, happiness is everything. Everything else will bounce off of that. So just be happy with whatever it is that you're doing. And if you're not, change what you're doing so that you can be happy about it. You got to live with you.
and that's super helpful. How do you envision the future of kind of underwater exploration and even and how it might affect space exploration?
Oh, yeah, this is a perfect analog. So not only are we doing that, we're testing AI software to diagnose problems medically with people. So we're just trying to get this to all work so that when we go to Mars, ultimately, when we go to another planet, we will have all that AI stuff and we'll have an MD working with us, but maybe not on the boots on ground, or maybe there will be, we don't know. You know what I'm saying? But if it's the medical doctor that gets hurt, you need somebody to medically treat them. So it's one of those things that you got to, we have to continue to research the ocean because we live here. And we are going to. And like I said in the beginning, we're talking about cures for cancer. We're talking about cures for Alzheimer's. We're talking about everything on this planet is here. We're in an ecosystem and it's all here. So I'm more than sure that we can find the answers. And it's not out in space that they're here, right? This is an enclosed ecosystem. So
yeah, it's we have and look, we should be calling this ocean Earth. We have more water surrounding us. We always say planet Earth. I'm like, why don't we call it just ocean Earth? We're made of mostly water. We're surrounded. There's more ocean than land. It seems like it's the proverbial elephant in the room, but
yep, exactly. So one thing that if I could, that my girl keeps pushing me on, she's like, you forget to promote your book on social media, and I know you know about it.
Yeah, Secret. It's your first fictional book, and and I know you've taken some of your. It sounds like, and I don't want to give anything away, but I'll say some of your life experiences, especially having spent 28 years in the Navy, to influence you as an author, right? In your
100%. So this story came almost directly out of my life, and if you want to know what it was like to grow up as a kid in New York, this was it right there. Like you'll go, oh, the gas lines in New York. Oh, I remember that. It's in here. The mom would tax you. Like I'm telling you. My entire life is in there, and you take that trip down memory lane. And my friends say, hey, look, we didn't think you could actually write. We read your book, but we didn't think you could actually write. That's really a good book. So to me, that's the greatest compliment because they're like, actually, I thought it was going to be crappy, but it was good.
But hey, it's actually your second book. Talk about your kid's book.
Oh yeah,
which I think is great. Anyone can enjoy this your other book, but
right. So my daughter and I wrote a book together called My Daddy Wears a Different Kind of Suit to Work. And then we translated it to Spanish in the back. And it's basically just a kid's book. And it talks about daddy's life as an undersea guy, right? Daddy gets cold, talks about how daddy tells sea stories and the sea monsters and but it's a nighttime kids book, and it was just a great little fun project. And it showed my daughter how to start a project, hire somebody to do the artwork and figure it all out, and then, put it in publication. And it's in the Library of Congress, but yeah, it's really kind of fun.
Awesome. So people can look for that. You've got. We'll put all the links
Yeah, Secrets
for
in Depth,
Dr.
and my
EPC.
daddy wears a different kind of suit to work. So yeah, they're cool. They're fun reads.
And stepping into how you help people every day when you're on shore and not in the classroom, and it's also a bit of your entrepreneurial as a business owner. Can you talk about the undersea hyperbaric work that you're doing,
Yeah.
and how that all integrates? And people might not have any idea that this is a modality available to almost anyone.
Yeah, exactly. So it's called hyperbaric medicine, or hyper more than baric pressure. So it's more pressure medicine. So basically, we're using that. Can you still hear me?
I can, yes. You're
Okay,
good.
you've frozen. I don't know if that matters to
Okay,
you, but
I'm doing okay, but yeah, we'll keep it rolling.
so hyperbaric medicine is something that has been around since 1664, right? So this is something that's been here. We've used it before. There used to be these big pressure chambers in the Midwest. They had these huge metal pressure chambers. And then when World War One broke out, we dismantled them and used the metal. But it was a modality a long time ago. And now it's just kind of coming back into favor. And what it does is there's certain mechanism of actions that are going on. And what I'm doing is I'm using those to treat traumatic brain injury. So not only am I a traumatic brain injury researcher, I'm also the recipient of a traumatic brain injury due to a really bad car accident. Somebody ran a stoplight and totaled my 1947 Chevy pickup truck, knocked me out in the wheel, at the wheel, knocked out. I woke up in the back of the ambulance. And when I finally came to in the hospital, or on the way to the hospital, they were like, hey, you have a really bad traumatic brain injury. So, okay, I said, I know how to heal it. I'm a traumatic brain injury researcher. I'm just going to go do hyperbarics alone. That wasn't enough. So I did hyperbarics, I did ice bath, cognitive behavioral therapy, physical therapy. But you can look at hbotampa.com and check out the entire treatment protocol. And I would say to any provider, go there, take it, use whatever you want for free. I'm never like, I want everybody to try and start treating traumatic brain injury and doing something, what I call moving the needle. Everything in there is the do no harm thing. There is no harm that can come from any of that if you know what you're doing. It's easy to get through. So it's one of those things that, like, man, we just have to try with traumatic brain injury. And guess where I'm treating them? Guess what pressure I'm treating them at? The exact pressure that I'm at right now.
Wow. There you go. So do you hypothesize that right now you're basically having this medical treatment, even though maybe there's nothing, medically wrong with you at the moment, but do you
Yep.
think that potentially there could be some, maybe not preventative, but somehow
No.
bolstering maybe your body in new ways?
So I will go as far to say that we have scientific evidence that says that if you expose yourself to this pressure 5 times for 1 hour per day, 5 times for 1 hour per day, you can double the number of circulating stem cells in your body. 5 times 1 hour per day, you can double the stem cells. And stem cells are used for everything. So we need to replace things. We want to have double the stem cells. Wow, that's an easy way to do it. We know for sure the mechanism of action is to increase the length of the telomeres. The telomeres are those little ends on the chromosome that help the chromosome repeat itself and replicate itself. And when you replicate it, the telomeres go away, go away, go away, go away. More times you replicate it, the more they go away. Well, then when they're gone, that is aging. So this increases between 25 and 33% hyperbaric oxygen, 60 treatments at the pressure that I'm at, basically. If you do 60 treatments, you can increase your length of your telomeres by between 25 and 33%. So we know there's certain mechanism of action that are in play here. And we suppose that when I'm done, I'm going to have many more stem cells and many, many, many more telomere lengths in my body. So hopefully, and with this added, work.
Uh-oh. Joe, I just lost you.
Yeah, that happens occasionally. We're underwater and we get dumped. Remember, we are 22 feet underwater. It's kind of hard.
Are you running through a cable? You got a cable.
We're running through a cable. I was thinking to myself that something knocked the cable and it just scrambled the data and pew, pew. It's like reset, scram the reactor. Pew.
So I think we got cut off where you said you're basically talking about the benefits of being under pressure. That I think it's kind of where we got cut off with your therapeutic work that you're doing.
Did I talk about the telomere length?
You did. I think you were just about to. You had just started talking about the stem cells. That basically there's more stem cells, or they're circulating
Yep.
better.
Yep. So if you are under 5 times 1 hour per day, 5 times 1 hour per day, you can double the number of circulating stem cells. So that's a lot, right? So we're doubling the stem cells. That's for sure happens. We know that. And we're going to see how much it happens on me when I'm down here. Second thing is the telomeres. And the telomeres are the little things on the end of the chromosome. So when you replicate your DNA, that you lose a little bit of your telomere. So we know that in hyperbaric oxygen, at a similar pressure to what I'm at, after 60 times, 1 hour per day, mind you, 1 hour per day, 60 times, you get between 25 and 33% more telomere. So increasing your longevity, like if that's the only thing, it doesn't prevent you from getting hit by a bus. I don't want to be like overwhelming, like, oh, it's the new miracle cure for being young again. No, it doesn't make the wrinkles go away. But, a lot of the things that happen that you need are helped with hyperbaric oxygen, like collagen synthesis. It's not just the collagen that you inject in your face, it's the building of collagen within your body, and every single cell in your body uses collagen as a building block. So every single cell. So it's not like, and you have to replicate and move these cells. So if you're making more collagen synthesis, increasing telomere length by 25 to 33%, increasing stem cells, reducing pain, reducing inflammation. All this stuff are known mechanism of action of hyperbaric medicine. So, we suspect that instead of coming back from the International Space Station with decreased bone density, decreased muscle, and increased height, because they're not under any gravitational pull, I will have decreased height, increased muscle mass, increased bone density, increased telomere length, increased stem cell production in my body, and I will be looking and feeling my absolute best. So Aquaman it is. Let's go with that.
I want to thank you. I want to ask, there was another question. It was sort of cultivated from a few friends. Someone asked, are you a burner? Did you ever go to Burning Man? Burning Man.
No, never went to Burning Man. It's kind of like I've been chasing this vision quest that I'm on right now. So Burning Man may, in fact, be in my future. So I've been kind of running down that road a little bit just to find out the why we're here sort of thing. And I think the older you get, the more you start seeking that kind of an answer. But no, I haven't been yet. Haven't had the fortune, but I know people who have, and it's apparently life-changing.
And given that you're underwater and you're talking about the healthy oceans, and you said you've got you're bringing a lot of resources in so that you could stay alive. Have you thought about how we could live in these places in a more sustainable way, especially more closed loop? Because if you're out in space, you don't have the benefit of having things delivered to you, and just waste management becomes the definition almost becomes more important, because you might need those wastes. Might not be waste. It could be a resource.
Yeah. So reusing that, that's certainly a thing. We know there are some bad things that happen when we reuse our waste, like some physical bad things that happen. So, it has to be tempered and balanced. And yes, that is absolutely the next stage, a fully enclosed ecosystem wherein you grow. We don't have any grow lamps down here. I wish we did. God, I mean, the one supplement that I'm taking while I'm down here is vitamin D, because I'm not exposed to any sun. Now, we can fix that with a grow lamp, but there's the heat problem, right? So you don't want any heat. right? So you want it to be cool. You don't want anything to spark or flame. And there's a certain electric draw that you can do while you're down here. So there's lots of issues that you have to have worked out. But the next step would be a fully enclosed ecosystem where you don't touch the environment doesn't touch you, and you can kind of sort of be isolated. And yeah, that would be the next step before. But food is a problem. I mean, look, here we are. I'm going to tell you that I'm a meat eater, but I also understand that that is not sustainable. There are no cows going on the ship to go to Mars. It's not happening, right? So we got to figure out how to get protein out of things, or grow protein or something out of something not that, something not meat that we got to carry with us and keep alive, and, that stink up your atmosphere with methane. God.
So do you get your food deliveries a few times a week? Speaking of groceries, and have they had any fun surprises on the culinary side?
Oh, so I did that thing for the class, and I showed you all those thank you cards. Man, when I did that, the kids sent me dark chocolate, and I am a dark chocolate fiend. And I mean fiend. Like chocolate covered espresso beans, chocolate covered cashews, chocolate covered, oh my God. So they sent me like, I don't know, probably 10 pounds of dark chocolate. So please don't send any more dark chocolate, y'all. I appreciate it. Trust me, but I have enough to last me like 5 lifetimes. So,
well, hey, I think there's a good sponsorship opportunity. I'm not going to name any names for any of these delivery service companies to talk to your folks.
Yep.
I think there would be a very smart branding opportunity.
And we have, what I try and do is I try not to use those kind of services. I try and be as isolated as I can. So, hey, every 3 days or so, bring me down, two salmon frozen patties that go in there, and then 3 of the chicken ones, and then canned tuna fish, that kind of thing. And I eat that stuff that's sustainable, that has a long shelf life, that I can eat from frozen. I can prep in the microwave and it's still pretty okay. Like I can poach a mean salmon. I'm not bragging, but it's really very good. So.
And so given that it's almost, so your day, it's almost 2:00, 2 p.m., 1400 military time. So you'll work up until, you said, just about till you're ready to crash out at like 8-ish?
Yeah, 7:30 is when I usually knock it off, and I just try and chill. And, I pick up the phone and talk to the girlfriend. I try and text with all the people that text me during the day, that kind of thing.
So interesting. So you have cellular access, or it goes through some sort of Wi-Fi connection? Is that?
Yeah. So actually, I forgot to show you that. That is the Wi-Fi system. So that cable comes in and goes straight up to the Wi-Fi. So that's what we have. We have a Wi-Fi setup, and it works.
And how old is the structure that you're living in?
50 years old, and it is the only habitat on the planet that is still in use. There are plenty of other habitats that were made. Sealab, Sealab 2, Sealab 3, which was the same habitat. Tektite, La Chalupa was this lab beforehand. There was Cousteau, Man in the Sea program. I mean, there was a whole big program, Genesis programs in the 60s and 70s. So all of those are defunct, gone, defunded. There used to be the Atlantis out here, or what do they call that? The Nemo missions that were going. And that is now kind of defunct, and it's been flooded, I think, since Irma. But they're basically, it's funding trouble, right? Because we don't want to put funding into being in the sea, as evidenced by the fact that Marine Resources Developmental Foundation and the International Board of Undersea Medicine had to sponsor this thing to pay for it. So it's not even like anybody's paying me to do this. I'm actually literally paying tens of thousands of dollars to do this. So
yeah, so I want to challenge any of the groups that are with means to step up and contribute to a really great cause and a great mission, and be respectful to Joe's time here. He's got a very busy rest of the day. And again, my friend, Dr. Joseph Dituri, he's an associate professor at University of South Florida in Tampa. He's a business owner, explorer, retired naval officer, author. He's got his 2 books, his fiction book, Secrets in Depth, and My Daddy Wears a Different Kind of Suit to Work. You can follow him on social media, which is Dr. Deep Sea, and and look up the Jules Verne Lodge. And Joe, just a pleasure to be able to spend a little time with you today.
Absolutely. It's so good catching up with you. And our fortuitous meeting all those years ago, I never thought when you wrote Spaces Open for Business, I was like, oh my God, he's my people. Oh, this is great. So we knew we had a kinship right off the bat.
Well, again, we had Dr. Joe Dituri with us today. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thanks, man.
I'm gonna
appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you too.